AITA for kicking my sister out of my house after she made a comment about my husband's disability. So, I, 28F, have been married to my husband, 31M, for 3 years now. My husband has a disability. He was diagnosed with a condition that causes him to have limited mobility and chronic pain. He uses a wheelchair, and while he can walk short distances with crutches, he mostly relies on the chair for everyday activities. He's an amazing person, kind, funny, and incredibly supportive. He's also very independent despite his condition, and he's determined to maintain as much of his normal life as possible. We live in a relatively small house, but we've made it work. It's a tight space for the two of us, but we've adapted it to accommodate his wheelchair. We've installed ramps, widened doorways, and adjusted the layout to make it as comfortable as possible for him. My sister, 25F, lives about 20 minutes away from me, and we've always been pretty close. She's a little younger, a little more carefree, but we've had a solid relationship for the most part. That was until recently. Last weekend, she came over to my house to hang out, and everything seemed fine at first. We were watching a movie, having some snacks, and catching up. At one point, my husband went to the kitchen to grab something, and I heard my sister say something that completely threw me off guard. She made a comment along the lines of, "I just don't get how you can be so patient with him. I mean, he's basically just sitting around all day. Doesn't it bother you?" I was shocked and asked her to clarify what she meant. She repeated herself, saying, "He doesn't do anything all day. He's not working. You're just doing everything for him. It must be so exhausting for you." I was stunned. My husband, who had just been in the kitchen, came back and heard the tail end of it. He looked visibly hurt, but he didn't say anything right away. I asked my sister if she was serious, and she shrugged, saying, "I just don't understand why you don't expect more from him. You're basically his caregiver at this point." I was furious. My husband is not just sitting around all day. He works from home part-time, runs his own small online business, and even handles most of the household finances. He's not doing nothing. But what really bothered me was how she seemed to minimize his struggles and dismiss the effort he puts into making his life work despite his disability. I told her that her comment was rude, hurtful, and completely out of line. I told her I couldn't believe she'd say something like that, especially after all these years of knowing my husband and seeing how hard he works just to have a somewhat normal life. I asked her to leave, and she was shocked. She argued that I was overreacting and that she didn't mean it that way, but I didn't want to hear it. I told her to leave my house and that we'd talk later when she could show some respect. She left in a huff, and honestly, I felt pretty drained. My husband was really upset too, but he didn't want to make a big deal out of it, saying he didn't want to cause any more tension. He said that he appreciated me standing up for him, but he didn't want to make me feel like I had to choose sides between my family and him. Since then, my sister has been texting me nonstop, apologizing, but her apology doesn't feel sincere. She keeps saying that she didn't mean it like that and was just worried about me, but it doesn't change the fact that she disrespected my husband and, by extension, me. I told her that I need some space from her and that she has to show me that she can be more considerate before we can hang out again. My mom, however, is calling me every day saying that I went too far and that I should just let it go. She says I'm making a big deal out of a misunderstanding and that I should have just talked to my sister calmly rather than kicking her out. I feel like I did the right thing. My sister has never shown much understanding about my husband's condition, but this time it felt different, more like she was trying to undermine him and make me feel like I'm somehow enabling him. That's just not true. I'm not enabling my husband. I'm supporting him the same way anyone would support their partner. It's a partnership, and it's not easy, but it's worth it. So now my family is divided. My sister is mad at me. My mom thinks I overreacted, and I'm just trying to get through the day without feeling like I'm the bad guy here. AITA for kicking my sister out of my house over this. Should I have handled it differently? I really don't want to keep this tension, but I also don't want to let her get away with saying things like that, especially when it comes to my husband. Thanks for reading. I just need some outside perspective. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law have my wedding dress, even though it's just sitting in my closet. So, some context. I, 28F, got married to my husband, Jake, 31M, last year in a beautiful ceremony. It was a dream come true for me. My wedding dress was custom-made. It wasn't crazy expensive, but it was exactly what I had wanted: classic, elegant, and unique. I loved it so much, and wearing it on my wedding day felt like the culmination of years of dreaming. Now, Jake has a younger sister, Clara, 26F. Clara has always been a bit, well, let's say dramatic. She tends to make everything about her, and it's not a secret. She's the kind of person who, when there's a family event or celebration, will always find a way to make herself the center of attention. She'll often do things like show up wearing an overly flashy outfit when it's not appropriate, and she always manages to have a better or more extravagant version of whatever someone else has. For example, if someone gets a new car, she'll show up the next day with an even more expensive one, acting like it was all just a coincidence. A couple of months ago, Clara started talking about her upcoming wedding, which is planned for next spring. Jake and I have been talking about having kids soon, so we're in a different stage of life, but we're still close with Clara and her fiancé. They're a nice couple, and I'm happy for them. However, there's always been a bit of competition between Clara and me. Nothing I've ever done intentionally, but I guess it's how she perceives things. I've always just tried to live my life and not really pay attention to her, but it seems like anything I do, she wants to one-up. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, Clara brought up my wedding dress. She was talking about how she didn't really have any idea what kind of dress she wanted. She said that she didn't want to spend a ton of money, and she felt like she had already seen so many dresses that it was hard to choose. She then casually mentioned that my dress was so beautiful and that she'd love to wear it to her wedding since it was just sitting in my closet, collecting dust. At first, I thought she was joking, but when I saw her serious face, I was stunned. I asked her if she was being serious, and she said yes, that she had always loved the dress and thought it would look amazing on her. She went on to say that she didn't mind that it was already used and that it would be a way to save money. I kind of froze, unsure of how to react. I told her that I was really attached to the dress and that it was something special to me, but she just shrugged and said that it's just a dress and I'd only worn it once. I told her that I wasn't comfortable with her wearing it. It was my wedding dress, something that I'd spent a lot of time dreaming about and planning for, and I wanted to keep it as my own. I explained that it wasn't just about the money or the dress itself, but the memories attached to it. Clara seemed to get annoyed at that response and said something like, "It's not like you're ever going to wear it again. It's a waste to just have it sitting there." Then she asked if I'd be willing to just let her borrow it. I said no, still feeling pretty shocked by the request. She didn't take that well. She started making passive-aggressive comments, telling me that I was being selfish and that I was acting like I was so special because I got a custom dress. She said she was just trying to save money and that I should be more supportive of her, considering how much she had always supported me. Honestly, I'm not sure where this came from, as I don't remember her ever doing anything that felt particularly supportive. After that, she texted me a few times asking if I'd changed my mind, but I just ignored her messages. Jake was in the room when she first brought it up, and he didn't really say much at the time. When I told him about the conversations we had afterward, he said I should just let it go, since Clara is family, and this would be no big deal. He added that it could be a nice gesture on my part to help her save money. I was honestly surprised by his reaction because I thought he'd back me up, but he kind of brushed it off. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I just don't know if I'm being unreasonable here. I know a lot of people re-wear their wedding dresses, or even let others wear them, and I get that it's not some rare, one-of-a-kind object. But for me, this dress is tied to such a personal memory. I was the bride in it. It was made specifically for me. I don't feel comfortable sharing it, even if it's just for one day. Since the conversation, things have been a little weird with Clara. She's been posting on social media about her dream dress, but she's also been commenting about how her plans for her wedding are so hard because no one is willing to be helpful. Her posts seem passive-aggressive toward me, as if she's hoping I'll cave and offer to lend her the dress. I feel like the whole situation is just awkward now, and I'm starting to feel guilty. Was I being too protective of my dress? Should I have just let her wear it, or am I right to want to keep it to myself? AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law wear my wedding dress. AITA for refusing to support my wife after she lied about something huge for years. I, 34M, have been married to my wife, Sophie, 32F, for almost 8 years. We've always had a pretty solid relationship. Nothing extreme, no huge drama. We have a 4-year-old daughter together, and things have been good, or at least that's what I thought. About a year ago, I found out something that completely shook my trust in Sophie and has led to some pretty serious problems between us. Before I get into that, let me give you a bit of context. Sophie and I met in college. We were both kind of nerdy and shy, so we bonded over shared interests. We've always been pretty open with each other about our pasts and our values. Or so I thought. Sophie had been very upfront with me from the beginning about her family. She told me her parents were divorced and that her father had been pretty absent from her life. She mentioned he had issues with alcohol and that he had a bad temper, which caused her to be estranged from him. Honestly, it didn't bother me much. I didn't need to know every detail, and I respected her desire to keep that part of her life private. However, recently I discovered something I wasn't expecting. About a month ago, I was going through some old paperwork for tax reasons, and I came across a document that mentioned her dad. But it wasn't just a name on a form. It was a letter that included details about the estate of her father, including how he had passed away, his assets, and the fact that Sophie was listed as the main beneficiary. That caught my attention because Sophie had never mentioned anything about her dad passing away, and certainly not that she would have any inheritance. She had always claimed he was practically a ghost in her life. So why was she listed as a beneficiary? When I confronted her about it, she completely freaked out. She insisted I was overreacting, saying I misunderstood the situation. But the more I pressed, the more her story started to unravel. After a lot of back and forth, Sophie finally admitted that her dad wasn't estranged because of his alcoholism or temper. She said the real reason they hadn't spoken in years was because he had been abusive to her mom when she was younger. The worst part? Sophie had been in contact with him for years after he disappeared from her life, and she'd been hiding that from me the entire time we'd been together. Not only had she been hiding the fact that he was still alive, but she also failed to tell me that she'd actually been seeing him off and on for years. She said she wanted to protect me and didn't think it was important for me to know, but that was it. Just a vague excuse for years of lies. I was stunned. I had no idea what to say. Sophie tried to explain that it wasn't that big of a deal, that it was all in the past, and that she just didn't want to deal with the fallout of bringing up such a complicated, painful issue. But for me, this was huge. I felt completely betrayed. We'd always prided ourselves on honesty in our relationship, and here she was telling me that she had been hiding something massive for almost the entire time we'd been together. I asked her if she had any other secrets she was keeping from me, and she got defensive. She said I was making it a bigger issue than it was, and that I needed to trust her. She claimed that I was being unfair by focusing on her past, when I should just be grateful she was honest now. But for me, the fact that she had lied for years about something so significant made me feel like I couldn't trust anything she said. I didn't know if there was more she wasn't telling me, and that uncertainty was eating at me. The fallout has been pretty intense. I told her I couldn't support her emotionally right now because I needed time to process this. I also said I didn't think I could move forward in our relationship without some serious trust rebuilding. Sophie has been upset with me for not immediately forgiving her and for making her feel like I was punishing her for her past. She said I was being too harsh and that this was something I should be able to move past quickly. She even suggested that I wasn't being supportive enough for her during what she thought should have been a healing moment for our relationship. My family and friends are divided on the issue. My brother and some of my friends think I'm justified in being upset. They agree that the level of deception is a big deal and that Sophie should have come clean years ago. On the other hand, my mother and some of Sophie's close friends think I'm being too rigid and unforgiving. They say that people make mistakes, and that Sophie was just trying to protect herself and her family by keeping the past buried. They also feel that I'm overreacting, especially since Sophie hasn't lied about anything else that's important to our relationship. I get where they're coming from, but for me, this is more than just a small mistake. This is a massive breach of trust. I feel like I've been living a lie for years, and now I'm not sure if I can get past it. Sophie keeps asking me to forgive her and move forward, but I don't know if I can. I don't even know if I want to. The thought of living with someone who has hidden something so major from me for so long is a hard pill to swallow. So, AITA for refusing to forgive Sophie and not supporting her emotionally right now. Should I just let it go and move on? Or is this something I'm justified in being upset about? AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancée move in with me after their breakup. I, 28M, have a younger brother, Ben, 24M, who has been in a serious relationship with his fiancée, Leah, 26F, for almost 3 years. They've been living together for most of that time, and honestly, things always seemed pretty good between them. Sure, like any couple, they had their ups and downs, but they always worked it out. Or so I thought. About 2 weeks ago, Ben and Leah had a huge argument that led to them breaking up. I don't know all the details, but apparently Leah found out some things that really upset her. Things Ben did, things he didn't do, and just general issues that seemed to accumulate over time. The breakup hit Ben hard. He's always been someone who doesn't handle rejection well, and this time it seemed especially rough on him. He was devastated, to put it lightly. I've always been pretty close with both Ben and Leah, so I tried to stay neutral during their breakup. I didn't want to pick sides, but I also wanted to be there for Ben since he was struggling a lot. I've been talking to him a lot these past couple of weeks, giving him advice and just trying to help him through it. Here's where the issue started. A few days ago, Leah reached out to me, asking if she could stay at my place for a while. She said she was in a rough spot emotionally and financially. Apparently, she couldn't stay in the apartment she and Ben had been renting anymore, and she didn't have a backup plan. She was in a tough spot and really didn't know what to do. She said she wasn't asking for a permanent stay, but just needed a place to crash for a bit while she figured out her next steps. I was taken aback. I didn't expect Leah to reach out to me directly like that, especially considering the breakup was so recent. I knew she was probably struggling, but part of me was hesitant. I've always liked Leah, and we've always gotten along well, but I also had concerns. Ben and Leah had been living together for years. They had a life together, and suddenly she was asking to move in with me? It just felt weird. At first, I didn't know how to respond. I told Leah I needed to think about it and asked her to give me some time. I wanted to make sure I wasn't being too hasty in my decision. In the meantime, I talked to Ben about it. He was surprisingly chill about it. He said he didn't want to get involved in the situation and that it wasn't really his business what Leah did next. He told me I should do whatever felt right for me. I thought it was a bit strange that he wasn't more protective of his own breakup, but I figured maybe he just wanted to let her go and move on. After some back and forth, I decided that I would allow Leah to stay with me, but under certain conditions. I told her that she could stay for a few weeks, but I expected her to be respectful of my space and not make things awkward. I was clear that this wasn't a permanent arrangement and that she would need to find somewhere else to live soon. She agreed, and we set a date for her to move in. Things got off to a rocky start. Leah wasn't as respectful of my space as I'd hoped. She would hang out in my living room for hours, sometimes not even talking to me. She'd play loud music, leave her stuff everywhere, and not clean up after herself. I tried to be patient at first because I knew she was going through a lot, but the situation quickly became uncomfortable. I was also getting annoyed because she wasn't really making any moves to find a new place. She said she was looking, but it was clear she wasn't trying very hard. After about a week, I had a conversation with her. I told her that while I was happy to help her out, it was starting to feel like she was taking advantage of the situation. I needed her to be more considerate and actively work on finding a new living arrangement. I also said that if things continued like this, I'd have to ask her to leave earlier than expected. Leah seemed genuinely surprised by my bluntness, but she promised to work harder on finding a new place. The next few days were a little better, but then things got worse again. Leah started bringing her friends over, which was a huge issue for me. I work from home, and having random people in the apartment all the time was making it nearly impossible to focus. I told her that it was becoming disruptive, and she needed to cut back on the guests. Leah got defensive and said she was just trying to have some support while she was going through a tough time. I understood that, but it didn't feel like she was respecting my space or boundaries at all. At this point, I started feeling really uncomfortable in my own home. It was clear that Leah was overstaying her welcome, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep putting up with the situation. I had a talk with her and told her that I needed her to leave by the end of the week. She was upset and started crying, saying that she had nowhere else to go and that she was really struggling. I felt bad, but at the same time, I knew I couldn't keep living like this. I needed to set boundaries for my own mental health and well-being. Leah left that day, and I haven't heard from her since. She hasn't reached out to apologize or try to explain herself. Ben, on the other hand, was upset with me when I told him about what happened. He said that I should have been more understanding and that I didn't really give Leah a fair chance to get back on her feet. He accused me of being too harsh and not thinking about her situation enough. Now I'm wondering if I made a mistake. I feel like I gave Leah a chance to stay with me, but she didn't respect my boundaries, and it became a toxic living situation. I'm just trying to get back to my normal life and not feel constantly on edge in my own apartment. So, AITA for asking Leah to leave and not letting her stay longer after their breakup. I know she's going through a rough time, but I feel like I've done enough and I need my space back. AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after he kicked me out of his wedding party over a dress. I, 28F, have one brother, Jake, 31M, who has been engaged to his fiancée, Laura, 29F, for about a year now. Their wedding has been the talk of the family for months, and while I've never been the most excited about the idea of weddings in general, I wanted to support my brother and his fiancée. We've had our ups and downs over the years, but I love him and thought that, despite some previous tension, I'd be there for him on his big day. The drama started when Laura asked me to be one of her bridesmaids. I was honestly flattered. We've never been super close, but I know Laura is a bit of a perfectionist and a control freak, so I thought she was just trying to be nice. I agreed, and everything seemed fine for a while. The first sign that something was off was when Laura insisted on picking out the bridesmaid dresses herself, which is totally fine, but when they arrived, I was shocked. The dress she had chosen was a strapless, bright red, floor-length gown with a tight bodice and an exaggerated mermaid skirt. It was honestly beautiful, but it wasn't really my style. I'm a little on the covetous side, and I didn't feel comfortable in it at all. Not to mention, I have a history of feeling self-conscious in clothes like that, and I wasn't sure I'd feel confident wearing it for an entire day. I mentioned this to Laura casually at first, just saying, hey, I'm a little worried about feeling comfortable in this dress for a long time. Do you think we could find something with straps, or maybe a little less form-fitting? She immediately got defensive. I chose the dress because it looks amazing on everyone, and I'm not changing it for you, she snapped. I tried to let it go, but I couldn't help but feel a little upset. I mean, this was her day, but we were all supposed to feel good in the dresses, right? A couple of weeks later, Laura called me up and said we needed to talk about the wedding party. I assumed she wanted to discuss some details, but instead, she dropped a bombshell. Jake and I have decided to ask you to step down from being a bridesmaid, she said, her voice cold. We just don't think you're going to be able to pull off the dress, and it's not going to be a good look for the wedding photos. I was completely blindsided. I tried to stay calm, but I was hurt. What are you talking about? I told you I wasn't comfortable with the dress, but I didn't say I wouldn't wear it. I was just asking if there could be a compromise. She responded, I don't think you'll be able to handle it, and we need the wedding party to look perfect. That was when I lost it. I told her that if she couldn't accept me as I am, then I didn't want to be part of the wedding at all. Jake, who had been quietly listening in the background, jumped in and said that he agreed with Laura. Look, it's her wedding, and we're not going to compromise on something so important, he said, sounding exasperated. I tried to explain that it wasn't about the dress. It was about how she made me feel like I wasn't good enough to stand by her side, just because I didn't look a certain way. After a lot of arguing, they both made it clear that if I wasn't willing to wear the dress and play the part, they didn't want me in the wedding at all. I felt completely rejected, not just by Laura, but by my own brother. They told me I could still come to the wedding as a guest, but I would no longer be part of the bridal party. I ended up hanging up on them and deciding not to attend the wedding at all. I felt like I wasn't welcome, and frankly, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go somewhere I'd feel uncomfortable. I haven't spoken to them since, and things have been really tense with the family. My parents think I'm overreacting and that I should just get over it and go to the wedding to avoid causing drama. Some of my friends think I'm in the right, but others say I should have just sucked it up and done it for my brother. Now, my family is really upset with me. They're telling me that I'm causing unnecessary drama, and that Jake and Laura are just trying to have their dream wedding. They even suggested that if I was so uncomfortable with the dress, I could have just worn something else in the same color or style, but I felt like that would have been undermining the whole thing. I don't want to feel like a token participant just to keep the peace. I'm really hurt by how everything went down. It feels like my brother and his fiancée only care about their vision of the day and not about me as a person. I feel like I've been pushed aside and made to feel inadequate just because I don't fit their mold of what a bridesmaid should look like. So, AITA for refusing to attend the wedding after they kicked me out of the bridal party over the dress. I honestly feel like they didn't even consider my feelings at all. Am I being unreasonable here? Or is this situation just as messed up as I think it is? AITA for telling my sister-in-law that I would no longer attend family events after she posted my personal medical information without my consent? Okay, this is going to be a long one, but I really need some outside perspective on this because I'm starting to doubt whether I overreacted or if I was justified in my actions. Here's the full situation. I, 28F, have been married to my husband, Ben, 32M, for 4 years now. His family has always been a lot. I get along with most of them, but there's one person who has always rubbed me the wrong way. His sister, Carrie, 30F. I try to keep the peace for Ben's sake, but it's been difficult. Carrie and I have always had a strained relationship. She's loud, opinionated, and can sometimes be downright rude without realizing it. But I've always just sucked it up because, well, family is family, right? For some context, I have a medical condition, which I've kept private for the most part, that requires me to be on a pretty strict regimen of medication and regular doctor's appointments. It's not a life-threatening condition, but it's something that affects my day-to-day life. I don't like making it public knowledge, and I've only shared it with my close friends and family, Ben being the main person who's always supported me through it. I've never wanted to make it a big deal, but of course Carrie knows about it because, well, she's family. A few weeks ago, my sister-in-law, Carrie, threw a family get-together. It was one of those large gatherings with cousins, aunts, uncles, and everyone in between. I had been feeling pretty sick in the days leading up to it, so I almost didn't go. But Ben convinced me to attend, saying it would be good for me to get out of the house and socialize a little. We arrived, and for the most part, the evening was going fine. I was sticking to myself, not feeling my best, but managing. At one point, I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, I noticed a lot of people were whispering and glancing at me. It was strange, but I didn't think much of it at the time. Then, after dinner, Carrie called everyone's attention to share something funny. She pulled out her phone and showed everyone a picture of me at a recent doctor's appointment. To say I was shocked is an understatement. My stomach dropped, and I could feel my face turning red. She had taken a picture of me while I was in the waiting room of the clinic, probably when I wasn't paying attention. And to make matters worse, she had added a caption, "Here's my lovely sis-in-law, looking like she's on the verge of death. Get well soon, I guess." I didn't even know how to respond. I felt humiliated and violated. My medical condition is private, and the fact that she'd taken a photo of me in a vulnerable moment without my permission and shared it with everyone was beyond disrespectful. I immediately excused myself from the group and went outside to try to calm down. Ben followed me out shortly after, asking what was going on. I was furious, and I told him exactly what had happened. His immediate reaction was to go back inside and confront Carrie, but I stopped him. I didn't want to cause a scene and make the situation worse, so I told him I just wanted to go home. Later that night, I received a call from Carrie. She sounded defensive and dismissive, telling me I was overreacting and that it was just a joke. She even said that everyone thought it was funny and that I should learn to laugh at myself. I told her that my medical condition wasn't a joke to me, and I was really upset that she'd shared such a private moment without my consent. She apologized, but also acted like I was making too big of a deal out of it. The next day, I got texts from other family members asking if I was okay and telling me I was being a little too sensitive. Some people even told me that Carrie didn't mean any harm and that I should just get over it. But I just couldn't let it go. I felt like my boundaries had been completely disregarded, and no one seemed to care about how it affected me. A few days later, I told Ben that I didn't want to attend any more family events that involved Carrie. I was done. I explained to him that I didn't feel comfortable being around someone who would invade my privacy like that, and I didn't think I could continue pretending like everything was fine. Ben was really upset. He said he understood where I was coming from, but that this was a bit much, and that I should try to work things out with Carrie for the sake of family harmony. He suggested that I could just let it slide and move forward, but I honestly didn't think I could do that. I refused to attend a family barbecue the following weekend because Carrie would be there. Ben ended up going alone, and when he came back, he told me that some of the family was mad at me for refusing to show up. Carrie had apparently been talking about it to everyone and framing the whole thing as me blowing things out of proportion. I felt even more hurt after hearing that, but I stood my ground. I told Ben that I wasn't going to pretend like this wasn't a big deal just to keep the peace. Ben is now really frustrated with me. He says I'm alienating myself and the whole family over one incident, and that I'm making it more complicated than it needs to be. He told me I could just ignore Carrie and focus on the rest of the family, but I don't want to put myself in that position again. It feels like they're all choosing her side over mine. So, AITA for refusing to attend family events that involve Carrie? Did I overreact, or is my reaction justified? I don't want to make things worse, but I feel like my boundaries were completely crossed. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding, even though it's family tradition to have children at every event. I, 29F, am getting married in a few months to my fiancée, 32M. We've been together for almost 5 years, and we've had a long engagement because of work, family stuff, and just general life chaos. I've always known that I wanted a small, intimate wedding. I'm talking less than 50 people, close friends, immediate family, and a couple of relatives that I'm especially close to. We're planning a ceremony in a beautiful outdoor space and then having a nice, low-key dinner reception afterward. It's going to be perfect for us. Now, my sister, 32F, has 2 kids, ages 5 and 8, and she is absolutely insistent that they come to the wedding. She's a great mom, and I love her kids, but here's the thing. I just don't want kids at my wedding. I'm not saying that they can't come to the celebration in general. She can come to the wedding with or without them, but I don't want a bunch of kids running around during the ceremony and reception. My wedding is supposed to be a peaceful, adult event, and I want everyone to be able to relax and enjoy the day without worrying about tantrums or noise during important moments. When I first brought this up to my sister, she was immediately upset. She said it was a family tradition that kids are always included in weddings, and I was breaking this tradition by excluding hers. To be honest, I didn't even know that this was some sort of tradition. It seems like more of a her tradition, not something I have ever felt the need to continue. I explained that it wasn't personal and that I wasn't trying to make her feel bad, but I was just asking her to respect my decision. She pushed back hard, saying that I was being unreasonable and selfish, and that she's already been planning for her kids to be a part of the wedding day. She said her daughter had even picked out a dress for the event, and that her son was really excited to be a ring bearer. I told her I appreciated that, but it wasn't happening. I asked her to respect my wishes and come without the kids, and that if she wasn't comfortable doing that, she could simply choose not to come. I know that sounds harsh, but I felt like it was a matter of setting a boundary. After that, she started telling other family members, and suddenly the entire extended family is involved. My parents have also weighed in, and they are basically telling me that I'm being unreasonable. They keep saying things like, it's just one day, and family is supposed to stick together, and don't make it a bigger deal than it is. My dad even said that my sister is doing so much for the wedding. She's helping with some of the planning and is paying for a few of the decorations. So I should let her have her way when it comes to the kids being there. I feel stuck in the middle of a family battle now, and I'm really upset. I know that family traditions are important to some people, but it's my wedding, and I feel like I should be able to make the decisions that are best for me and my fiancé. I don't want to create unnecessary drama, but I'm also not willing to sacrifice my vision for the wedding just to keep the peace. I've already been clear with my sister, and I've been as kind and reasonable as possible in explaining my side of things, but she's not budging. She's now threatening not to come at all if I don't change my mind, and that makes me feel like the whole situation is being manipulated. I'm honestly getting so frustrated with my family because no one seems to understand why I'm making this decision. Everyone else seems to be pushing my sister's viewpoint, and they keep telling me I'm being unreasonable, but I don't think I am. I've made plenty of compromises with other things for this wedding. It's not like I'm making it all about me, but this one thing feels like a non-negotiable for me. I really don't want to lose my sister over this, but I also don't want to go against my own boundaries just to avoid conflict. I've tried to be diplomatic, but I'm starting to feel like I'm being backed into a corner. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding, even though it's family tradition to have children at every event. Edit. I've been reading through some of the comments, and I just want to clarify a few things. The guest list, this is not a no kids wedding in general. I have a few close family friends who have children, and they are allowed to bring them if they choose. The reason I'm saying no to my sister's kids specifically is because of the dynamic. She has two young kids who are very energetic and loud, and I just don't want the focus of the day to shift from the ceremony to managing them. Other kids attending are either older or have been very well behaved in similar settings. The guest list, this is not a no kids wedding in general. I have a few close family friends who have children, and they're allowed to bring them if they choose. The reason I'm saying no to my sister's kids specifically is because of the dynamic. She has two young kids who are very energetic and loud, and I just don't want the focus of the day to shift from the ceremony to managing them. Other kids attending are either older or have been very well behaved in similar settings. My sister's reaction, she's taking this really personally. I tried to explain it as diplomatically as possible, but I think the fact that she's never had to deal with being told no about anything related to her kids is causing her to overreact. My sister's reaction, she's taking this really personally. I tried to explain it as diplomatically as possible, but I think the fact that she's never had to deal with being told no about anything related to her kids is causing her to overreact. Family pressure. Yes, it's true that my family is everyone should be included in everything, but I've made it clear that this is a special occasion and that I have a specific vision for the day. My fiancé is on my side, and we're both really committed to making the wedding reflect us, not just trying to please everyone else. Family pressure. Yes, it's true that my family is everyone should be included in everything, but I've made it clear that this is a special occasion and that I have a specific vision for the day. My fiancé is on my side, and we're both really committed to making the wedding reflect us, not just trying to please everyone else. Alternatives. I suggested that my sister have a little family gathering with her kids to celebrate the wedding afterwards. I'm happy to FaceTime them during the ceremony, so they can still be part of the experience in some way. That wasn't well received, though. Alternatives. I suggested that my sister have a little family gathering with her kids to celebrate the wedding afterwards. I'm happy to FaceTime them during the ceremony, so they can still be part of the experience in some way. That wasn't well received, though. I just feel like I'm being treated like a villain for having boundaries on my own wedding. Anyway, I really appreciate all the thoughtful responses I've gotten so far. It's helping me feel a bit more validated in my decision. Thank you. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she tried to invite my ex, who cheated on me. I, 28M, have a sister, Claire, 30F, and we've always had a close relationship. Growing up, we were inseparable, but as we got older, our lives began to diverge in some pretty significant ways. I got really focused on my career and building a stable life. I met my ex, Lucy, 27F, about 3 years ago, and we were together for almost 2 years before everything fell apart. To say it was a rough breakup is an understatement. Lucy cheated on me. It wasn't just a one-time mistake. It was an emotional affair that turned physical. When I found out, I confronted her, and she admitted everything. The betrayal was gut-wrenching. At the time, I was devastated, and I really didn't know how to move on. I ended up cutting contact with her entirely, blocking her on social media, and basically trying to rebuild my life without any remnants of that relationship. That was over a year ago, and honestly, I still have a lot of unresolved anger about how things went down. I'm doing much better now, but it wasn't easy. Fast forward to about 2 months ago, Claire got engaged to her longtime boyfriend, Mark, 33M, and they set their wedding date for this summer. I was really happy for her, but also a little anxious. Why? Because Claire and Lucy know each other. Not only that, but they were always pretty close, often hanging out together at family events and getting along just fine. I didn't know what to expect when it came to Lucy potentially being invited to Claire's wedding. One night, Claire and I were talking about the wedding, and she casually mentioned that she was thinking about inviting Lucy. I froze. My stomach dropped. I didn't know what to say at first because I didn't want to make it a bigger deal than it already was, but eventually, I had to speak up. I told her that I wasn't comfortable with that idea. I explained to her that Lucy was the person who betrayed me, and that seeing her at her wedding would be incredibly painful for me. I told her that I had been trying to move on, and that having Lucy there would undo all of the progress I'd made in terms of healing. Claire was quiet for a moment, then she said something that really took me by surprise. I think you're being dramatic. It's been over a year. I understand that you're still hurt, but she's a part of our lives, and I don't think it's fair to exclude her just because of what happened between you two. I was pretty taken aback by her response. I told her I didn't care if Lucy was a part of her life or not. This was about my well-being, and I couldn't pretend like nothing happened. Claire's response was pretty blunt. Well, I think you're being unreasonable. It's my wedding, and I want the people I care about to be there. I'm sorry, but I'm inviting her. If you don't want to come because of that, that's your choice. The way she said it made me feel like she was dismissing my feelings completely. I tried to explain again how difficult it would be for me to be in the same room as Lucy, but Claire was adamant. She said I was making it all about me, and that I was being selfish for not just getting over it. At that point, I felt like we had reached an impasse. I told her that if Lucy was going to be there, then I wasn't going to attend the wedding. Claire didn't seem to care too much about this response, and the conversation ended with her telling me that she hoped I would come to my senses. A week later, I found out that Claire had invited Lucy. I was upset, obviously. I had no intention of backing down, so I told Claire that I wasn't going to the wedding. She called me and tried to argue with me, but I stood firm. She said I was overreacting and that I was ruining what should be a happy occasion for her. She even said I was being petty and holding on to the past. The thing is, I understand that I'm probably not the only person who's been hurt by someone they loved. But this wasn't just a normal breakup. Lucy humiliated me, and I don't think I should be expected to just let that go for the sake of my sister's wedding. I really do want Claire to be happy, but I also have to put my mental health first. Since then, my parents have weighed in, and they're on Claire's side. They think I should just suck it up and go. They're really upset with me for making such a big deal out of it. I've had a few friends tell me they understand why I'm upset, but also say that I should attend for the sake of family. They've all kind of suggested that I'm blowing this out of proportion and that it's just a wedding. It's not about me, and I should be able to get over it. Now, Claire hasn't spoken to me in over a week. She's clearly angry, and our relationship feels really strained. I feel like I'm being put in a position where I have to choose between my sister and my own peace of mind. I know this is her big day, but I also feel like my feelings should matter too. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she invited my ex, who cheated on me. Should I have just sucked it up and gone to support her, or am I right to stand my ground and protect my own mental health? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for not attending my sister's wedding because she didn't invite my husband? Okay, this is a bit of a mess, but I'll try to keep it clear. I'm 31F, and my sister, Jess, is 27. We have a complicated relationship that goes back pretty far, and things have been a bit rocky for the last few years. I'll give you the background, but I need to be upfront. This isn't just about our wedding. It's about the way she's treated me and my husband, and how I just can't ignore it anymore. So, Jess is getting married to her fiancé, Matt. They've been together for almost 2 years now, and I thought I was happy for her, honestly. I want to be supportive. But when the wedding invitations came out, there was something off. I opened the envelope, and to my surprise, I wasn't invited with my husband. She'd invited me, of course, but not my husband, Tom. Tom and I have been married for 5 years, and he's a huge part of my life. He's supportive, kind, and has always been there for me, even when things with my family have been tough. Jess and Tom have never had a close relationship, but I didn't think that would matter for something like a wedding. I asked her about it, and she told me that she was keeping the guest list small and that she didn't have space for plus ones, despite knowing full well that her best friend was bringing her boyfriend, who is a total stranger to our family. I didn't buy it, honestly. I pushed a bit more, and she eventually said something that really struck me. She said, "It's just that Tom doesn't fit in with the vibe of the wedding. You know how he is. He's not exactly the kind of guy who meshes with the people I want around." I was kind of stunned. Jess and I have had our differences over the years, but I always thought she'd at least be civil with Tom. This felt personal. Now, some context. Tom is a bit more introverted. He's not big on small talk or pretending to like people he doesn't know, which I'll admit can sometimes rub people the wrong way. He's also not into the whole rich people wedding vibe, which is the kind of event Jess wanted. Her wedding is going to be fancy, with a bunch of high society stuff. Tom's not exactly a fan of that world, but he's always been respectful of it when we've been to family events or gatherings. He just isn't comfortable pretending to care about things he doesn't. After Jess said that, I told her I couldn't come if he wasn't invited. She got upset and said that I was making a big deal out of nothing and that I was overreacting. I told her that my husband and I come as a package deal. We're a team, and I don't go to events where I feel like he's being intentionally excluded or treated like he's less than. She didn't take it well. Jess started accusing me of making everything about me and that I was being selfish by ruining her special day. She said it was her wedding, her choice, and that I should respect her decision. I tried to explain that I didn't expect her to suddenly get along with Tom, but it was more about the fact that she didn't even try to make him feel welcome or included in any way. I thought maybe she would come around, but she didn't. The more I pushed, the more she dug in her heels. Eventually, I made the decision that I wouldn't go to the wedding if Tom wasn't invited. I told her that, and she just said, "Fine, don't come. I don't need you there anyway." That stung, but at that point, I felt like I'd given her enough chances to come to her senses. Since then, things have gotten worse. Our parents are really upset with me for making a scene and causing drama. They've been trying to mediate between us, but Jess won't budge. She told them I'm being ridiculous and petty for not attending her wedding because of Tom. They say I should just go alone and that it's only one day. But to me, it's not just about one day. It's about respect and showing that my husband is a priority to me. The thing is, Jess has always been a bit selfish and controlling. Over the years, she's asked for a lot from me, but when I've needed her, she's barely been there. I've always supported her from her high school drama to her career choices, but she's never really returned that kind of support. It feels like this is just another example of her putting her own wants above our relationship. Now, I'm starting to wonder if I made a mistake. I mean, am I being unreasonable? I've heard from some people that I'm just being dramatic and that I should get over it. I don't want to ruin my relationship with my sister, but I also don't want to feel like I'm betraying Tom. It feels like she wants me to choose between her and him, and I don't think that's fair. I've even considered talking to her again and seeing if there's a way to work it out, but I feel like the damage has been done. So, AITA for standing my ground and not attending my sister's wedding if she's not going to invite my husband? Or should I just let it go and go solo to avoid further conflict? I'm honestly torn here, and I'm not sure what the right thing to do is. I, 28F, recently got married to my amazing husband, James, 30M, and it was a beautiful day. I've been dreaming about my wedding since I was a little girl, and one of the most important things to me was the dress. I spent months looking for it, trying on dozens of gowns, and finally found the one. It was a bit more expensive than I initially planned, but I knew it was worth it. My dress was a custom-made gown with intricate lace and embroidery that just felt perfect on me. I have one sister, Emily, 26F, who is 2 years younger than me. Growing up, we were always very close, but over the years, our relationship has become strained. She's always been a bit more demanding in the sense that she expects things to go her way, especially when it comes to family events. She's also had a habit of taking things of mine without asking, which I've repeatedly told her not to do. When I was preparing for my wedding, Emily was very involved in the planning. She was one of my bridesmaids, and while I was grateful for her support, she started to get very opinionated about certain things. For example, she didn't like the color of the bridesmaid dresses I chose, and she complained about my wedding venue for being too old-fashioned. I brushed it off because I knew she meant well, but it did start to wear on me after a while. Fast forward to the wedding day. Everything went beautifully. I walked down the aisle in my dream dress, and I felt like a queen. After the ceremony, we took a lot of family photos, and Emily was particularly vocal about how stunning my dress was. She kept saying, "Oh my God, I wish I could wear something like that." At first, I laughed it off, thinking she was just being complimentary, but it soon became clear that she wasn't joking. Later that evening, Emily pulled me aside and told me that she had a huge favor to ask. She said that she had found the perfect man, we'll call him Brad, and that they were planning to get engaged soon. She said that she wanted to wear my wedding dress for her own wedding. I was honestly stunned. I asked her why she wanted my dress, specifically when she could buy a similar one herself. She said that she loved the dress so much and that it looked like something she could never afford, but could totally picture herself wearing. She said it would mean so much to her if I would let her wear it, as it would make her wedding feel more special and would be a great way for her to feel close to me on her big day. She even mentioned that she didn't have the money to buy a dress like mine and that it would be a huge financial relief for her if I just let her have it. I was taken aback, to say the least. The dress was one of the most meaningful things to me about my wedding day. It wasn't just a piece of clothing. It was something I had dreamed about for years, something that I had carefully chosen to reflect my personality and the significance of the day. The idea of her wearing it made me uncomfortable. I told her that I wasn't ready to part with it. Emily didn't take it well. She started insisting that it was just a dress and that I had no reason to be so attached to it. She told me I was being selfish and that I should be honored that she wanted to wear something so special to me. She even suggested that I was hoarding the dress and that it would be much better if I let her wear it, as it would create an emotional connection between us. At this point, I was feeling really upset. I told her that while I loved her, I wasn't comfortable with the idea of her wearing my wedding dress. I told her that I want to keep the dress for my own memories and that I wasn't ready to part with it, especially after all the effort I put into picking it out. Emily didn't take no for an answer. She started to get visibly upset and said that she would never ask me for anything again. She accused me of not caring about her and said that it was just a dress and I'm being overdramatic. She kept pushing even after I said no multiple times. She then said that if I didn't let her wear the dress, she would never forgive me and that it would be just another thing I've done to hurt her. I tried to explain to her that I wasn't trying to hurt her, but the more I talked, the angrier she got. Eventually, she left the wedding early and stopped speaking to me for a few days. After the wedding, I received a flood of texts from Emily, all accusing me of being selfish and saying that I had ruined her chance at a perfect wedding. Our parents also got involved, with my mom calling me to tell me that I should just let Emily borrow the dress because it would make her so happy and that it's just a dress and you only wear it once. My dad, however, was on my side and told me that I shouldn't feel obligated to give Emily the dress if it made me uncomfortable. Things have been really tense between me and Emily ever since. She's been distant, and while we've tried to talk a few times, the conversation always comes back to the dress. I've been feeling guilty because I love my sister and I don't want to hurt her, but I still don't feel comfortable giving her my dress. I also don't want to lose my relationship with her over this, but I'm starting to feel like she's trying to guilt me into something that I'm not comfortable with. So, AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding dress. AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law live with us after she lost her job, even though my husband thinks we should help her. Okay, so this is kind of a long one, but please bear with me. I, 29F, have been married to my husband, Ben, 30M, for 5 years. We have a pretty solid relationship. We're financially stable. I work as a marketing manager, and Ben works in tech, so we don't have to worry too much about money. We don't have kids, but we're planning on starting a family soon. Ben's younger sister, Ella, 26F, has always had a complicated relationship with our family. She's had a series of jobs, but never really managed to keep one for long, and she's always been a bit irresponsible. She's a great person in many ways, super fun to be around, very caring, but she's also impulsive, a bit entitled, and doesn't always think through her decisions. I'll give you a few examples. She once got a credit card for a shopping spree that she couldn't afford and then asked Ben to help pay it off, which he did because he's that kind of guy. She's always asking for money for emergencies, but the emergencies are usually things like a concert ticket she just had to go to or a last-minute trip to Vegas with friends. About 6 months ago, Ella lost her job at a local restaurant. The restaurant closed down, and she had to find something new, but she's been struggling to find steady work. At first, she was getting by with unemployment benefits and some freelance work, but now her savings are basically gone. She's been staying with her parents, but they have their own issues. Her mom's health isn't great, and her dad just retired and has been spending most of his time traveling, so they don't really have the space or energy to help her out as much as she needs. Last month, Ella asked if she could move in with us temporarily while she looked for a new job. I knew this wasn't going to be a simple favor because, well, Ella's stay always turns into an extended one. I could already see her treating our home like a hotel, staying up late, using all the shared spaces, and expecting us to entertain her on weekends because she's bored without a job. But I didn't want to be the bad guy, so I talked to Ben about it. Ben, being the kind-hearted person he is, immediately said, yes, of course, we should help her out. Here's where things get tricky. I don't want her living with us. Not because I don't care about her, but because I know her. I know that once she's comfortable in our space, she's going to overstay her welcome. She's going to be on the couch all day, using the Wi-Fi, eating our food, and generally making herself at home without contributing much of anything. The last time she stayed with us for a few weeks, I had to ask her multiple times to do her dishes and take out the trash. I don't mind helping family, but I also don't want to set a precedent where we just allow her to freeload off of us indefinitely. I told Ben that I didn't think it was a good idea to let her move in. I explained my concerns about her lack of boundaries and how I didn't want to be put in a situation where I'd have to constantly remind her of basic household responsibilities. I also mentioned that I didn't want to start resenting her, which I know could happen if we allowed her to stay for too long. Ben, on the other hand, felt like I was being harsh. He argued that it's family, and she needs help, especially since she's been struggling so much with finding a new job. He said we could set some ground rules and boundaries to make sure things didn't get out of hand. I felt bad for not wanting to help, but at the same time, I knew it wasn't going to be as simple as setting boundaries. Ella's the type to push those boundaries until they bend. I also don't want to start resenting her or have her living here for months on end, especially when I'm trying to create a peaceful home environment with Ben before we have kids. After some back and forth, Ben asked me if I was really going to let her be homeless, and that hit me hard. I felt like I was being painted as the bad guy, but at the same time, I couldn't shake the feeling that we'd be setting ourselves up for disaster if we let her stay. I suggested that maybe she could find a temporary place to stay, like a roommate or subletting a place short-term, but Ben wasn't happy with that. He insisted that if we could offer her a place, we should, and that it wasn't that big of a deal. In the end, I stuck to my decision. I told Ben that I wasn't comfortable with it, and I wasn't going to allow Ella to move in with us. I suggested that we help her find another living situation or look into renting a cheap apartment or room for her. Ben was upset, and we ended up having a big argument about it. Now, things have been tense between us. Ben feels like I'm being unsympathetic and that I'm putting our convenience over family. And I'm feeling guilty because, of course, I don't want to see Ella struggle. But I also don't think I should be the one to shoulder the responsibility of her personal decisions, especially when I know how she operates. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law live with us. Even though Ben thinks we should help her out, I'm starting to feel like I'm being unreasonable. But at the same time, I'm not sure I can be the one to deal with the fallout if things go south. What do you all think? AITA for telling my sister she can't have my inheritance after she ruined my relationship with our parents? So, to give you some context, I, 29M, come from a pretty wealthy family. My dad's side has been successful in business for generations, and my parents, late 50s, early 60s, made sure to set up everything so that we'd be financially stable for life. My sister, Rachel, 32F, is my older sister, and while she's had some success in her own right, she's always had a tendency to clash with my parents. Growing up, Rachel was the golden child. She was always the straight A student, the one who did everything right by my parents' standards, and they were obsessed with her. I wasn't a bad kid, but I wasn't as perfect, and it always felt like I was in her shadow. I didn't mind much when I was younger, but as I got older, I started resenting how my parents would dismiss my interests and choices in favor of hers. When I went to college, I made the decision to study something that wasn't in the family business line, which really disappointed my parents. They wanted me to follow in their footsteps and take over part of the company when the time came, but I had no interest in doing that. I wanted to go into the arts and eventually start my own company. They were supportive to a degree, but I could tell they weren't thrilled about it. Anyway, flash forward to a few years ago, and things started getting worse with Rachel. She got married to this guy, Mark, who, to put it bluntly, I thought was a total loser. He didn't have a steady job. He was lazy, and he treated her like crap. I didn't voice this opinion much, but my parents absolutely hated him. They thought Rachel could do better, and they made their feelings known. For a while, it seemed like Rachel was trying to please everyone by keeping her relationship with Mark under wraps. But eventually, it came to a head. Rachel got pregnant, and she decided to move in with Mark's parents. I was living in a different city at the time, but I kept in touch with her through calls and texts. From what I could tell, Mark wasn't supportive of her during the pregnancy, and Rachel seemed to be spiraling. My parents were not pleased with any of this and tried to help, but Rachel shut them out. They offered financial support, housing, therapy, anything she needed, but she refused. She said she was tired of their control and didn't want their help. Now, here's where things took a dramatic turn. A year ago, Rachel completely cut off contact with my parents. I don't know what exactly happened, but one day, she sent a text saying that she couldn't deal with their toxic behavior anymore and that she wanted nothing to do with them. This was a huge shock to all of us because, despite everything, they had been financially and emotionally supportive of her. My parents were devastated, especially since Rachel was the one who had always been their favorite. They begged her to reconsider, but she stuck to her guns and basically disappeared from their lives. Fast forward to this past summer, my parents sat me down and explained that they were making changes to their will. It was a hard conversation, but they were clear about one thing. They had decided to leave the majority of their estate to me. They said it was because I was the only one left who had a healthy relationship with them, and they felt like they had been more than fair with Rachel for so long. It wasn't about the money. They just wanted to make sure their legacy was handled in a way that didn't cause more pain. I thought it was a weird and uncomfortable conversation, but I understood. It didn't feel right to be talking about inheritance while they were still alive, but they were getting older and clearly wanted everything to be in order. I wasn't excited about the money, but I did appreciate their transparency. Here's where it gets complicated. A couple of weeks ago, I got a call from Rachel. She was in tears, saying that she was in a bad place and needed help. She asked if she could come visit me, and I agreed. When she arrived, she immediately started asking about the inheritance. She said she was sorry for cutting off our parents, but she had changed and wanted to repair the relationship. She admitted that she had been wrong to cut them off and that she was ready to make amends. Rachel then dropped a bombshell. She said she was expecting our parents to leave her part of the inheritance, even though she hadn't spoken to them in over a year. She said she needed the money to get her life back on track and that our parents would be obligated to help her now that she was starting over. I was taken aback, not only because of the sheer audacity of her request, but also because it felt like she was only coming back for the money, not for a genuine reconciliation. I told her straight up that I didn't think it was fair for her to expect anything, given how she treated our parents. I said that I understood if she wanted to repair her relationship with them, but inheritance wasn't a right, and she wasn't entitled to any of it after what she did. I told her that I would be the one managing the estate after they passed, and I wasn't planning on splitting it with her. If she wanted to repair her relationship with our parents, that should come first, and money should not be the motivation. Rachel got really angry and started accusing me of being a manipulative person who was trying to take everything from her. She said I was punishing her for making mistakes in her life, and that I was no better than our parents for holding this over her head. I tried to explain that I wasn't punishing her, but it felt like everything was about the money to her. Since then, things have been really tense. Rachel has told other family members what I said, and now I'm getting calls from aunts, uncles, and even some family friends, all saying that I should be more understanding and that Rachel deserves a second chance. My parents have stuck by me, but the pressure from the rest of the family is starting to get to me. I know I didn't handle the situation perfectly, but I feel like I did what was right. Rachel had plenty of chances to fix things with our parents, and she chose to burn those bridges. Now, she expects to be rewarded for it. So, AITA for telling my sister she can't have my inheritance after she ruined her relationship with our parents. AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law stay with us after she got kicked out by her husband. I, 29F, have been married to my husband, James, 30M, for 3 years. We have a pretty normal relationship, and I like to think we're good at supporting each other. However, there's been one ongoing issue with my sister-in-law, Anna, 34F, that's been really testing me lately. Anna and I have never really gotten along. She's always been the perfect child in her family, high-achieving, constantly praised, and always on top of everything. On the other hand, I've often felt like I could never quite measure up. I'm not saying I'm not successful, but it feels like no matter what I do, Anna somehow always gets more attention or validation. I won't lie, it's been a point of contention for me, and we've had our fair share of arguments over the years. Lately, things have gotten worse. Anna's marriage to her husband, Mark, 36M, has been on the rocks for a while. They've been having serious issues, and while I've never really asked for details, Anna has vented to me on occasion. It's pretty clear that Mark isn't treating her well. He's emotionally distant, doesn't help around the house, and frankly seems uninterested in fixing their relationship. I've tried to stay neutral in all of this. I know it's none of my business, but every time I talk to Anna, she always comes back to how miserable she is. I've tried giving advice, but Anna doesn't seem to take it seriously or follow through. She just complains and expects sympathy, which gets old. Things came to a head about 2 months ago. Anna called me out of the blue, sobbing on the phone, saying that Mark had kicked her out of their house. According to her, he was done with her and had asked her to leave. She didn't have anywhere to go, and she needed help. I wasn't thrilled with the idea of having her stay with us, but I didn't want to turn her away either. I know she's family, and I know she's struggling. However, I also knew that Anna could be a lot to handle. She tends to bring a lot of drama with her, and the thought of her staying with us for an indefinite period made me anxious. My husband, James, and I talked about it, and we agreed that we should offer her a temporary place to stay, but with clear boundaries. We told her that she could stay with us for 2 weeks while she figured things out. We also made it clear that she needed to respect our space and privacy. The last thing we wanted was her moving in indefinitely. Well, those 2 weeks turned into a month, and then 2 months. I won't lie, it was wearing on me. Anna wasn't making much of an effort to get back on her feet. She wasn't looking for a new place, she wasn't looking for work, and she wasn't doing much other than sitting on the couch, texting her friends, and complaining about how horrible her marriage was. She didn't help around the house, and when she did, it was often passive-aggressive. She would do things like help with dishes but then leave them half-done or make snarky remarks about the way I organized the kitchen. It was clear she was resentful of me, but she wouldn't come out and say it. It was like she was looking for reasons to feel like I was somehow mistreating her, even though I was bending over backward to be accommodating. James, meanwhile, didn't really see the problem. He'd brush off my concerns, saying that Anna was going through a tough time and needed space to heal. I get it, she was going through a rough patch, but it felt like we were enabling her to be stagnant. She wasn't taking any responsibility for her situation, and it was starting to affect my mental health. I was stressed out, and I wasn't getting the support I needed from James. Instead of stepping in to set boundaries with his sister, he was basically letting her do whatever she wanted. He was so concerned with making her feel comfortable that he completely ignored the toll it was taking on me. Then, last week, Anna called me again, this time in the middle of the night. She told me that Mark had changed his mind and wanted her back, but she wasn't sure if she wanted to go back. She said she was torn and needed space to think about it. I was exhausted at this point, both physically and emotionally. I told her that we had talked about this before. She couldn't stay here forever. I said she needed to figure things out and make a decision about whether she was going back to Mark or not. If she wanted to stay, she needed to start pulling her weight around the house and contribute in some way. This conversation did not go well. Anna accused me of being unsupportive and cold-hearted. She said I was only offering her conditional help and that she was already going through enough. She cried and told me that I didn't understand what she was going through. She basically guilt-tripped me into feeling like a terrible person for wanting some basic boundaries. The next day, she left without saying much to anyone. James was upset when he found out I had asked her to leave. He said I was being too harsh and that I should have been more patient with her. He claimed that I didn't understand what it was like to be in her situation and that I had no empathy. We've been arguing ever since, and I honestly feel like I'm a bad guy here. I'm starting to feel like I'm being unreasonable. I understand that Anna is going through a difficult time, but I also feel like she needs to take responsibility for her own life. I can't keep enabling her to live in a state of limbo, constantly depending on others without trying to make progress. So, AITA for asking my sister-in-law to leave our home after she overstayed her welcome? Should I have been more patient, or was it right for me to set boundaries and prioritize my own well-being? AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her kids to my wedding because of how they behave? So, a bit of background. I, 27F, am getting married in a few months to my fiancé, Mark, 30M. Our wedding has been in the works for almost a year, and I've been very particular about the guest list. I've been pretty clear with everyone about what I want and don't want, and that includes the number of kids at the wedding. I've been very upfront that there will be no children allowed at the ceremony or reception, except for my two young cousins, 6 and 7 years old, because they're like family to me and are part of the wedding party as flower girl and ring bearer. This has been met with some resistance, especially from my older sister, 31F, Claire. She has 2 kids, 8F and 6M, and honestly, they're absolute hellions. Claire knows this, I know this, everyone knows this. They're loud, unruly, constantly running around, and they have zero respect for personal boundaries or anything that resembles basic manners. Claire tries to justify it by saying they're just kids, but I've spent a lot of time with them and I know they're old enough to be taught basic behavior. I've had multiple conversations with Claire about the wedding guest list, and every time she insists that her kids should be included. I've told her multiple times that, while I love them, I'm not comfortable having them at the wedding because of their behavior. Claire wasn't thrilled, but reluctantly accepted it. However, about a month ago, she dropped the bombshell that she planned to bring her kids anyway, despite my explicit request. This conversation went like this. Claire, so I was talking to my husband, and we decided that we're going to bring the kids with us to the wedding. I know you said no kids, but we're family, and it's not a real wedding without kids around. No, Claire. I've already told you that I'm not having kids at my wedding. I don't care if they're family. The atmosphere I want for my wedding is a kid-free one. It's about the experience I've been planning for months. I've already told you my boundaries. Claire, you're being ridiculous. It's not like they're going to ruin anything. They're just kids. It's a big celebration, and they should be a part of it. Me? I don't care if they're kids. I've told you my reasoning. I've asked nicely for months, and I'm not changing my mind. Claire, you're really going to do this? You're going to keep your niece and nephew from being there for your big day? That's really messed up. At that point, I tried to stay calm, but I was getting really frustrated. I told her that I'd been clear from the beginning that kids weren't invited and that she wasn't respecting my wishes. I also said that if she really cared about my special day, she would honor my request. She didn't take it well. She started crying, telling me how hurt she was that I wouldn't include her kids, and accusing me of being selfish. I tried to explain that I wasn't excluding them because I didn't love them, but because I wanted my wedding to be a specific kind of event, and I didn't feel it was the right setting for kids. She said that was the coldest thing she'd ever heard, and I had no idea how much it would hurt her to not have her kids there. She kept telling me how unreasonable I was being and how this was going to ruin our relationship. She called me an ungrateful brat and ended the conversation by saying, "Fine, but you won't see me or my kids there." Don't expect me to be at your wedding if you won't let them come. Since then, I've been feeling like maybe I'm in the wrong. I've always known that she can be kind of dramatic, but I never thought she'd take this as far as threatening not to come. I try to get my fiancé and other family members involved to mediate, but they're all kind of staying out of it, saying it's between us sisters. Some of my other relatives think I'm being harsh, while others support me, saying that I should stick to my guns on this one. I understand she's upset, but I just feel like if I let her kids come, I'll be opening the door for more people to push boundaries about what is and isn't acceptable for my wedding. It's not about her kids personally, it's about keeping the event the way I've planned it. At the same time, I don't want to destroy my relationship with my sister, but I also feel like I've been more than patient with her. So, AITA for standing my ground and telling my sister she can't bring her kids to my wedding. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she banned my fiancé from coming. I, 29M, have a sister, 31F, Maya, who is getting married in a few weeks. Maya and I have always had a pretty solid relationship, though I'll admit we've had our fair share of disagreements over the years. I've always been close to my family, especially my parents, and we've been a tight-knit group for as long as I can remember. The issue started a few months ago when Maya sent out her wedding invitations. I received mine, but there was something off about it. She had explicitly written in the invitation that my fiancée, Clara, 28F, was not invited. The reason given was that she didn't feel comfortable having Clara at the wedding because of past issues that she didn't want to discuss. Now, let me provide a bit of context. Clara and I have been together for 3 years, and while we're not yet married, we've lived together for the majority of that time and have been talking seriously about our future. Clara is a lovely person and has always tried to be kind and considerate when it comes to my family. But there is some history between Clara and my sister that Maya has never been able to move past. A couple of years ago, Clara and Maya had a huge falling out. I won't get into every detail because it's a long story, but the gist of it is that Clara accidentally offended Maya during a family gathering. Maya had just broken up with a long-term boyfriend, and Clara, in her usual awkward way, tried to comfort Maya by giving some unsolicited relationship advice. Maya was hurt by Clara's words, which, admittedly, could have been better phrased. However, I believe it was a simple misunderstanding. Since that incident, Maya has barely spoken to Clara. Whenever we're all together at family gatherings, Maya is cold and distant towards her. Clara, trying to keep the peace, has been nothing but polite and respectful, but the tension is always palpable. I've tried to get Maya to see that Clara is not a threat to her and that she should let go of the past, but Maya insists that the damage was done and she can't just forget it. So when the wedding invitation came and Clara was uninvited, I was taken aback. I spoke to Maya privately about it, asking if there was any chance she would reconsider. I told her that Clara is important to me and that it would hurt me deeply if she wasn't there. I even offered to bring Clara along, and we could all pretend things were fine for the sake of the day. Maya refused, telling me it was her wedding, her rules, and that I couldn't expect her to invite someone who made her feel uncomfortable. She also told me that if I wanted to attend the wedding, I would have to come alone. At first, I thought maybe I could just go without Clara and try to enjoy the day, but after thinking about it, I realized that I couldn't do that. Clara and I have been together for a long time, and we have built a life together. I couldn't just leave her behind and go to my sister's wedding without her. It felt like a betrayal, and I didn't want to do that to Clara, especially since she had already been hurt by Maya's coldness in the past. I made a decision to tell Maya that if Clara wasn't invited, I wouldn't be attending the wedding either. I knew it would be a tough conversation, but I thought it was the only fair thing to do. Maya was upset when I told her. She accused me of choosing Clara over her and said I was being unreasonable. She pointed out that she was just trying to have a peaceful wedding and didn't want any drama, and that I was making it all about me and Clara. I told her that it wasn't just about me. It was about respecting my relationship and my partner. Since then, the family has been divided. My parents have called me multiple times, urging me to reconsider. They said that it's a big day for Maya and that I should try to be understanding, even if I don't agree with her decision. They reminded me that family is important and that sometimes we have to put our differences aside for the sake of a special occasion. My best friend, who's known Maya and me since childhood, says that Maya is being unreasonable and that I'm right to stand by Clara. But my friend also said that I need to decide what's more important, my relationship with my sister or with Clara, because if I don't go, I risk losing my relationship with my sister forever. Now I'm stuck in this weird place where I feel like I'm being pulled in two directions. I don't want to lose Maya, but I also don't want to abandon Clara. I don't think I'm being unreasonable by standing up for my fiancé, but I know it's hurting my family, and I hate that. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she banned my fiancé from coming? Am I in the wrong for not just sucking it up and going alone to avoid drama? I really don't know if I'm being stubborn here or if I'm in the right. Any advice or perspective would be appreciated. AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she told me I ruined hers. I, 28F, have a sister, Sophie, 26F. We've always had a complicated relationship growing up, mostly because I was the responsible child, while Sophie was the wild one. She got away with a lot of things I wasn't allowed to do, and I was constantly the one stuck cleaning up her messes, both literally and figuratively. For example, she once dropped out of college twice and had me cover for her when she needed excuses. Over the years, I learned to keep my distance, but I always felt like I was the mom of the family, making sure everyone was taken care of. When Sophie got engaged to her now husband, Mark, 30M, I was happy for her. I genuinely wanted her to have a beautiful day, and I figured that even though our relationship wasn't the closest, I should still be supportive. I offered to help with wedding planning since I knew she was a bit overwhelmed with all the details. Sophie has a tendency to be disorganized, and I had been through the process of planning my own wedding a couple of years prior, so I thought I'd be a good resource. However, things quickly turned south. Sophie insisted on planning everything down to the tiniest detail without asking for my input or advice, which was frustrating since I had already offered to help. I didn't want to overstep, so I stepped back, but I still wanted to be involved in some way, mainly helping her avoid any major mistakes. The biggest one, in my opinion, was the choice of venue. Sophie had picked a rustic barn, which was cute but not very practical. The place was far from the city, had terrible parking, and didn't have proper air conditioning, meaning it would likely be unbearable in the summer heat. I voiced my concern about the logistics, but she shut me down immediately, saying it was her wedding and she wanted it to be perfect her way. The bridal party was another issue. Sophie had picked her best friend, Emily, as maid of honor, and I, naturally, was a bridesmaid. Sophie and I have always had a tense relationship with her friend Emily, who has always been somewhat dismissive of me. I assumed it was because Emily wanted to be the center of attention, and with me in the wedding party, she'd be second place. But whatever, I dealt with it. What really hurt me was when Emily took over every major decision for the bridal party. Sophie didn't seem to care that Emily was stepping on my toes. She'd give me little to no instructions on what to do, and when I did ask, she'd tell me to ask Emily. I'm sure Emily loved that, but I felt like I was just a background character in my own sister's wedding. Now, to the part where I truly became the villain in Sophie's eyes. The day before the wedding, the venue was an absolute disaster. The weather had been unpredictable, and a lot of things were set up outside, but it started raining heavily in the late afternoon. There were no contingency plans in place, and the barn was too small to accommodate all the guests indoors. The wedding coordinator, who I assumed was supposed to be handling logistics, was nowhere to be found, and the decorations were half finished. I could see the panic in Sophie's face as the clock ticked closer to the ceremony, and no one was stepping up to fix things. I've been observing this chaos for hours, and I finally snapped. I stepped in and started coordinating things. I found some people to help move the decorations inside. I called the coordinator to get them on site, and I arranged for a few extra chairs to be brought in. I also made sure the guests who had arrived early were being directed properly. Sophie had her bridal party in place, but no one seemed to be stepping up to manage the crisis. To me, this was all about making sure the day wasn't a disaster for her. I did what I thought needed to be done, and I didn't think twice about it. But Sophie didn't see it that way. She pulled me aside and yelled at me, saying I was ruining her wedding by taking over. She was livid. I tried to explain that I was just trying to help, but she refused to listen. She claimed that I was making her feel like she couldn't do anything on her own and that I was embarrassing her in front of her guests. That hurt, but I tried to stay calm. I told her that the only reason things were falling apart was because she didn't plan properly, and I didn't want her day to turn into a complete disaster. After that, Sophie barely spoke to me for the rest of the evening. She ignored me during the ceremony, and I was made to feel like an outsider at my own sister's wedding. To make matters worse, Emily and the other bridesmaids gave me cold stares the entire time. I could tell they were all in agreement with Sophie that I had overstepped. The whole night felt like a blur of tension, and I left the reception early because I couldn't take the atmosphere anymore. The next day, Sophie texted me, calling me a control freak and a drama queen for ruining her wedding day. She said I made everything about myself and accused me of being jealous of her and Mark. I tried to explain again that I wasn't trying to steal her spotlight, but she refused to listen. She ended the conversation by saying she didn't want me involved in the wedding anymore, and that if I couldn't support her without making things complicated, she didn't want me around. I haven't spoken to her since. I don't know if I should have just let things fall apart or if I truly did overstep. I feel bad that it ended like this, but at the same time, I feel like I was the only one who had the sense to do something when everything was falling apart. My parents have been caught in the middle, and they're saying that Sophie might be overreacting, but they've also said I should apologize for causing drama. I don't think I owe her an apology, but I'm torn. So, AITA for refusing to help Sophie with her wedding and for not apologizing. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.